Here's what's coming into view on Elevating Denver for July 2023. Take a look behind the scenes of the Nuggets celebration. Step into a revitalized corner of Denver.
This is the last phase of our park vision.
And experience pop culture through indigenous creators.
Really a way for us to share our stories and also provide that connection.
These stories and more are just ahead on Elevating Denver.
It's time to introduce to you your 2023 NBA champion, Denver Nuggets!
We are celebrating our Denver Nuggets with a Champions Parade and Rally. As you can imagine, we usually would have had a lot more time to put on an event of this size and magnitude, but we only have a couple of weeks, and it's a great partnership between operations, safety, and communications to put on an event of this size.
This place is rocking. We are Denver rocking. Nugget Nation is on fire. Go Nuggets!
It absolutely takes a village to put on something like this in a short time frame. So we actually started planning for the parade weeks ago. We didn't jinx it. We always knocked on wood to make sure that we wanted to give the Nuggets the best case possible to win. But it's a multidisciplinary, multi-agency effort. And for Dottie's part, we provide a lot of the permitting to make sure that the street closures are done safely. We make sure that meters can be bagged so that there's enough space to hold an event. We are making sure that all of our signals and street signs and street markings are all operational and they make sense. We work through all the logistics, which are anything from very small little coordination pieces with DPD or with any of the other agencies that are actually putting on the event. We provide some transportation to and from for the attendees, for folks that are trying to shuttle back and forth between where they're starting in the parade and back. So it's a lot of little things that are within our wheelhouse and some things that are not within our wheelhouse, but it's an all hands on deck experience.
My role in this whole experience is I'm the Senior Director of Live Events and Sports for the Altitude Sports. It's much bigger than I ever imagined to put on something like this. Just so many entities involved, the city, all the networks, the team, KSC, you know, getting approval from them, how many trucks they're going to do, what they're going to be, where we're going to be. It's quite an experience, and I will say this, last year when I did the Abs Parade, I walked away saying that's the funnest event I've ever done in television, because it was just such a technical accomplishment, if you will. So it was great. So I look forward to this year. For the longest time, the team side did not want to say the word parade. I think it was sort of unspoken around the team. You did not say the P word anywhere. I know Coach Malone was a big fan of not saying that, because, you know, they have business to take care of. I think the rest of us could look ahead a little bit. I know that the city has been discussing with everybody for a while. Talking to some of them after they won, they can't wait to see all the fans here. They can't wait to see the number, just to see the city just kind of rally and just be so supportive, and I can't wait to see it. It's just going to be amazing.
You have a lot of people from the operation crew, a lot of people from safety. I don't actually work for the Office of Special Events. I'm just lending myself for a couple weeks to help them out. If something was to happen, like a major weather event or something else, the Emergency Operations Center is on call right now.
The Emergency Operations Center is where we bring together many of the city agencies when we have large special events or large citywide emergencies. So we've been planning for this for over a month now, once we knew that the Nuggets were getting close to winning the championship. And so we do a series of planning meetings with virtually every city agency to make sure that we have all of our contingencies lined up, we have resources in place, and should we need to mobilize a large emergency operation, we'll be ready to go. We have to take into account we have so many people downtown. We're estimated to have 500,000 people, and with that comes challenges of dealing with the weather, potential heat concerns, as well as so many people eating up our cellular service and whether people can communicate or not. And then the normal concerns we have with that many people in one place, that if somebody should try to do something bad, that we have so many vulnerable people and we need to be prepared to respond to that if needed.
the city works with a variety of partners to put on an event like this. I mean, you basically had people for the last couple of days who have been doing setup, right? So this isn't even something that's done in a day, it's done over multiple days. So it's kind of all hands on deck here.
So I want to say, Nuggets Nation, I love you. Nuggets Nation, let's do it again.
So IACON is an Indigenous comic and arts festival that got its roots from the Indigenous Comic Con, but it's basically a comic and arts festival that is focused on providing connection and network and really connecting with what makes all of us Indigenous. So it's a celebration of indigeneity hosted by North American Indigenous people. So oftentimes when people hear the word Indigenous and like Indigenous Comic and Arts Festival, they might assume that it's only for Native American people. But we really look at the word Indigenous as like every human comes from some land, but we are the Indigenous people to North America, which is why we are the hosts of IACON and why we're the focus. I think it's really important because it not only allows us to really express our fandoms together with our cultures. There's a lot of people that relate to Star Wars and anime and manga and comic books. We have comic artists, illustrators, painters, beadwork artists, fashion, cosplay, special makeup effects, augmented reality, robots, like it's all of the above. All of our vendors are really amazingly talented.
So my name is Sophie Hill and I am here as Ajajat Creations. I do a beadwork page, I run a beadwork page. And so I'm vending my work for the first time at a fair. This is my first time vending, so I'm also part of the Novice Artist Program. It's a lot of excitement. For me, it's really important because when I was growing up, there weren't a lot of Indigenous cultural gatherings that I had access to. So I knew that I had this culture to me, and there wasn't really any evidence around me. I lived a very just like plain American life from my perspective, and didn't really get to come to powwows or other cultural gatherings like this until I was an adult. And so now I soak up every opportunity that I can get. I love getting to see things like the opening ceremony with all the dancers and blessing the ofrenda.
I think it's important to boost self-confidence for all the people in this Novice Artist Program along with myself, because I think this is a very great opportunity to feel accepted into like this art community and to have like this opportunity of expression and promotion.
But mainly we wanted to express ourselves through our artwork to show how the different stories, especially with learning of our Navajo and Oneida side, how sometimes they intertwine with each other. So that's kind of like what our designs kind of reflect.
Oh, the community is great here. I felt it was a duty of mine to be at a venue like this. Being that I am half Native twice over in my family, I just really felt that people needed the representation to see a professional comic book artist here representing for the culture. So it really feels good about that because I'm not really hung up on stuff like that because I'm like people just having fun, period. And if it ain't fun, there's no reason to even be here, you know?
One of our partners, Vicki Eagle, is actually the Native Artist in Residence at the Denver Art Museum right now, and she organized a res metal concert, so bringing some of the bands from Navajo Nation out to Denver. We finish it all off with the Futurisms Fashion Showcase, which is going to be amazing. We started off with a drag show performance from a bunch of our Two-Spirit community members, and then followed by that is the designers. We have about 8 designers that are all ranging from different styles, and then following the fashion show is a Blacklight Powwow, which is organized by Sarah Ortegon. I'm really excited to see this particular group come together and excited for really a way for us to share our stories and also provide that connection with others who might feel a loss of that connection. So people who may have lost really their own tribal stories from where they came from and their culture, because there's very much the white narrative of the white American is it's just American, but there's all of these other cultures that play into that to create what the American identity is.
Today we are celebrating the opening of our latest flexible use performing art space that is really for the community. This is the last phase of our art park vision that's within Arkins Park here, and in collaboration and partnership with Denver Parks and Rec.
A new park, a new library, a new kitchen, new businesses along the promenade, and of course, the elevation and celebration once again of our arts and culture, the values that we celebrate.
10, 12 years ago, you probably wouldn't recognize this space. I actually remember coming up here when I first moved here, and there used to be a road here. Arkins Road went along the river, South Platte River. Probably 6, 7 years ago, the conversation got started to take out the road and create a dedicated park space here in the Five Points neighborhood. It's really a nexus of community connections from Gloveville area down to our downtown area. Huge waterway growth and interest here, so lots of activation and community development that we wanted to see to support the residents who are here and who are growing and thriving with our city as we continue to grow and develop.
This has been an amazing journey over 12 years, and this is a culmination of a lot of visionary people, a lot of imagining things that didn't exist, a lot of thinking outside the box about how we could breathe life and energy into an area of Denver that quite frankly had been perennially overlooked and underinvested. This is an epic moment where we hold up really the heart and soul of this community, not only the people of Gloveville, Elaria, Swansea, and Five Points, but our arts and culture that has been such an important part of this part of town.
These were actually set to be demolished, and the community came in and the community came together in a town hall saying they really wanted these buildings to be reimagined as a community and artistic resource. And in 2021 we opened phase 1 of this plan, and then today we completed it with this phase 2, and we are just so excited to see how this story gets written in the future and what an amazing resource this will be to artists in the community.
Today, we premiered a dress rehearsal of a show called Good Bones, which is based on the concept of a woman who's trapped in her own house and is trying to figure out whether this house is someplace she wants to stay or someplace she wants to leave. And through that, she's perhaps discovering her own obstacles in changing locations, changing her life, moving on to a new chapter. I think that it's often overlooked, the process that goes from a creative idea to a fully scaled production that really works through all the kinks and gets to a space where it's not only profitable and successful and big, but it's fully fleshed out and we've understood what the show is, and we've really ironed out all the kinks in it. So in having a space like this, we really have the opportunity to workshop a lot of those hiccups and really try new things and say, oh, this is surprising that this worked, and it really found something beautiful and strange, and it really opens the doorway to the next iteration that could be, you know, the next Hamilton, for example.
It takes a huge effort, a city-wide effort, to create a space like this. We had to work extensively with the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure because of there being a road here before. When we got ready to really transform into what it is today, we put out a request for stated interest back in 2017, and we had a lot of community interest and applications on what people or potential partners thought they could do with this space. And so we really love loved the RiNo Art District's proposal, their emphasis on public access, community, culture, collaboration, all of the shared visions that we have with Parks and Recreation to really create that healthy city and healthy environment to support every individual who either wants to come here and play with their family or come learn how to paint, come learn how to take care of native landscapes and create a resilient park space. This is really a unique park area that has something for everyone.
Every time you visit, it's going to look and feel different. There's going to be participatory activities. We want to have farmers markets in the wintertime. This is really a way for us to continue to fulfill our mission as an art district, to keep art and artists at the center, to really empower the community to have access to the creative process. We are in such a unique position as the art district to see these private and public entities come together and be that intermediary to benefit the community and the artist. So we take that very seriously, and we're just so excited that we were able to accomplish this and bring this vision to life.
My love for parks really started out when I was a kid. I used to go on road trips with my dad when I was, between the ages of about 10 and 14. And we would jump in our camper and we'd go all over the country, just the two of us. And he would take me to parks, to historic sites, to remote wilderness areas, and it really developed a love of history and parks and exploration. I was very fortunate that my first park job was as a park ranger at Mesa Verde, which was the place that really sparked my interest in archaeology, and I got the chance to go back there and work as a park ranger, doing education and helping connect people to a place that had been really moving to me. And over the course of my career, I got to work with wildlife biologists, fire ecologists, park rangers, and people who do such amazing work in the support of parks. And what it made me realize is that the magic of a park is that all of these things come together as one and give us an opportunity to connect with a sense of place. And I think that's what I love the most. And that made me really want to get more involved in natural resources management and be able to think about how we manage parks as a whole. How do we maximize access and the opportunity for people to connect with these places while also making sure that we're protecting what's most important about them. Denver Mountain Parks has been around since 1912, which makes it even 4 years older than the National Park Service. Genesee Park was created in 1914. It was the earliest park in the mountain park system and was initially designed as a drive-through wildlife park. So it was designed to have bison, elk, and bighorn sheep. And many people will probably remember seeing elk here. We no longer keep elk, but we still have our bison herd. This bison herd was created in partnership with Denver Zoo. The herd was established with animals that were kept at City Park and with animals from what's now the National Bison Range. And we've maintained them as a conservation herd since then. A lot of people ask me about the differences between cattle and bison, thinking that they're very similar and just look a little bit different and have different horns. That's actually not true at all. Bison and cattle are very different. Bison are wildlife. They're wild animals. They've never been domesticated. Bison are a critical part of this local ecosystem of the Americas, and they're considered a keystone species, which means that their presence is critical for a functional ecosystem and for the survival and health of other species around them. When bison were removed from the landscape, it created an ecological collapse. When you reintroduce bison to the landscape, it brings it back to life. One of my favorite little companion species with bison is a little rainbow scarab dung beetle. Now their job is to go into the dung and they take little bits of it and they burrow down around the edges of the dung and they line their burrows with the dung, and they use that for laying their eggs and for mating. And that's the function that these little dung beetles provided, was to aerate the entire prairie. And so when those disappeared, it made it much harder for water to permeate down into the roots and those long prairie grasses. And that's one of the reasons why we really struggle with drying up springs and losing some of our groundwater, is because of the loss of bison and even these little dung beetles. When you reintroduce bison back onto the landscape, they do so many things. Their hooves help push native seeds into the ground and help retain a little pocket of water that helps them germinate. They create wallows in the ground as well. If you've ever seen a bison rolling around and dusting, they're trying to get the bugs off, and it's part of their natural instinct. But what it does is it creates these little ephemeral pools for birds, for coyotes and foxes, rabbits, amphibians, all kinds of wildlife that are out on the plains. One of the things that we really want to help communicate to people is that the bison were targeted for removal from the landscape. And that was done intentionally to control Native peoples who depended on them for their mental health, for their well-being, for their lifestyle. And so being able to come here and learn more about bison and being able to connect with them, I think really opens doors to better understand our human history and also our ecosystem and what we need to do to help restore some of that ecological balance, not just here in Genesee and in the Denver Mountain Parks, but across our landscapes. I think the rewards of this work have been so far really strongly related to the Bison Donation Program. And it's been an amazing experience to watch these bison go home every year. We raise them here as a conservation herd. They're a genetically significant herd as well. And so to the extent that we can help support genetic diversity in the bison population for tribal herds is important. There are tribes across the nation that are trying to rebuild their herds, that are trying to demonstrate their own sovereignty, and that are asking us and expecting us rightfully to acknowledge that, to acknowledge their role, their history, their presence on the landscape, and their contemporary place in working with us. Changing the language we use around what we do, I think, is really important. So this is Genesee Park, and we manage a conservation herd. We're not a ranch, and we're not cowboys. When we handle our animals, we consider this a handling facility, not just corrals. So we're really trying to change that mindset of not just what we do, but I think it really speaks to why we're trying to do it.
It's going to be there forever, so it'll be in the fabric of Denver forever, and that's what I think about is the next 7 generations of Denverites. Not just me, my kids, my grandkids, my great-grandkids. How can I make sure that the part of Denver that I love and value, culturally value, is still part of that fabric 7 generations from now?
The required public hearing for Council Bill 536 is open. May we have the staff report?
The application and public hearing before you today is the designation of La Raza Park as a local historic cultural district.
Recently at City Council, La Raza Park, which is located in Northwest Denver, was designated as a cultural historic district. And this means that it is a local landmark that is recognized for its importance to Denver's Latino and Chicano communities. We also recognize that you can't designate what you don't know exists. So the things that weren't in our landmarks also weren't in our history books. So we launched a project called Denver in Context that is a series that will document the history of different communities across Denver. We started with Denver's Latino Chicano community, and last year we produced a document called Nuestras Historias. In that document, La Raza Park was identified as a site being particularly important to the community, both historically and culturally. After the document came out, Councilwoman Sandoval approached Community Planning and Development and Parks and Recreation about doing a designation of La Raza Park on behalf of the community.
As we started working on the application, we came into some hurdles. In mainstream media, there's not good representation of what happened at this park. There's not good representation of the Chicano movement. We were agitators. There was blatant discrimination. And so I had to come up with a new idea of how are we going to designate this park without going to our traditional mainstream media sources when you do a historic designation. And so I asked Community Planning and Development if we could do oral tradition, like in the Latino community and a lot of communities of color. You share your traditions and stories down from one generation to another.
La Raza Park is also a window into the larger history of the city of Denver. The significance of La Raza Park during the Chicano movement in the 60s and 70s and even 80s, when it was a time during Denver's history there was a lot of structural racism that prevented Chicanos or Mexican Americans from accessing some of those city parks and swimming pools and other accommodations. So La Raza Park has become a symbol of Chicano identity and a very important place for the neighborhood of Northwest Denver.
The designation of a cultural district is a chance for Denver and the surrounding community to really uplift and honor the people who have made Denver the place it is today. So when we talk about cultural districts, we often are talking about underrepresented communities, but who still have a really important part of Denver's history, and we're shining a light on their stories, their history, and the things that make them really unique in Denver.
So community involvement and activism in asserting our own stories is absolutely vital, because our stories are not written in the history books. They're not written in the landscape the way other stories have been. And so they've been suppressed, they've been, pushed to the side, they've been marginalized. And so that's the only way we're going to bring these stories forward. It will take much more than one context study to tell those stories, but it becomes our responsibility as a community to keep those stories alive, because we can't count on people coming to us to ask us for our stories. So this community activism and especially the support that we get from our Latino and Latina leaders is absolutely vital to telling a true history of Denver.
So it's a labor of love. That's what I called it. It's not an easy process. For me, what I got out of it was being able to elevate the stories of those who have been disenfranchised and sometimes forgotten.
As I'm working on these, bringing my stories, my community stories that I grew up on with, that I know, into these chambers, into these historic halls, where 97% of historic designations are Anglo-driven, not culturally driven. And I will do my best to continue to change that and do my very best to continue to bring culturally relevant historic designations forward. So I humbly ask my colleagues to vote to support this historic cultural district, and as we say in the North Side and throughout the Chicano movement, que viva la raza.
Sandoval?
Aye.
Madam President?
Aye. Madam Secretary, close the voting and announce the results.
11 ayes.
11 ayes. Council Bill 23-0536 has been adopted. Congratulations.
Stay elevated by subscribing to the city's YouTube page for these stories and more. And stay tuned to our social media channels for more content. Don't miss our new episodes of Elevating Denver, premiering each month. Thanks for watching, Denver.